Evolutionary or revolutionary? Today I go over my 10 biggest shocks moving from the Ronin-S to the Ronin-RS 2. As an independent filmmaker, gimbals have been an essential part of my kit now for the last several years. I started out using a Ronin-1, the big monster of a beast, and since that point I've used Ronin-1s, the Ronin-M, the Ronin-2. Several years ago I switched over here to the Ronin-S, and so now when the Ronin-S 2 came out, I kind of thought, this is similar form function, is this a gimbal that's worth changing to? Well, I had some jobs that came out that I thought there were some features on this gimbal that basically justified me getting it. I got it, and I've gotten a chance to use this now on a couple of projects, and I just want to tell you what I saw as my 10 biggest shocks moving from the S to the S2, and hopefully that can help you decide if this is a system, if you're upgrading, whether it's worth upgrading, or if you want to get it, whether it's worth getting it for you. Now, the first and biggest shock is this. It is the size. Now, I come from the world of the Ronin-1 and those big beasts of a monster. So when the first Ronin-S came out, people complained about the weight and the size. I honestly never had a problem with it. I always thought this was pretty light and small to operate, especially compared to the Ronin-1 and the Ronin-2. That being said, the S2 is so much lighter. It's really hard to explain that if you don't have it in your hands, but the weight difference is smaller, and it's also a shorter form factor. So it's just a more convenient and easier to use gimbal. And this makes a difference if you're running around for long periods of times. The mechanics of this is very, very important in helping you avoid fatigue. The other thing that's really great is DJI rethought the size of the packaging. You can see just how much smaller these cases are. And this is great because if you travel, which you probably will, especially with a gimbal this size, what makes it awesome is it's so much easier to pack this thing in your luggage and just run with it. So the size is by far, man, an awesome shock, really good to see. I didn't think it would be that big a deal to me, but it is, I really love it. Shock number 2, I'm really, really happy that we have motor locks finally on the RS2. This was on the SC, it was on the Ronin-2, but it's just so great because what happens is when you don't have motor locks, you just feel really uncomfortable moving this thing around. I mean, just transporting around becomes something of a worry. And I know I personally would never transport my Ronin very long distances unless I repacked it because I was worried about damaging something. The motor locks on the S2 are great. I can lock it down, carry it around, and I can transport my camera system from place to place. I can feel comfortable putting that in a backpack if I have to go and run it. So it's a little thing that makes big differences on a production day, especially when you're running around. So the motor locks, shock number 2, very, very happy one. Okay, shock number 3, it's the ability to put bigger cameras on essentially a smaller system. One of the things that I still have my Ronin-1, and I use it specifically if I'm getting bigger cameras. Now, with my Ronin-S, I could never really feel comfortable getting, like say, a C300 or anything bigger on that. With this RS2, I recently did a shoot where I was able to get a Canon C300 with a cinema lens on there and balanced, and it worked. I was able to balance it and actually go with it. The only thing I ran into problems when I was actually shooting is I actually had the wrong side. I had a Canon C300 with a long battery. You need the shorter battery for that, the BPA 30, I think it is. But it fit and the weight was great. I was able to balance it and do all that stuff. So for me, having a small gimbal like this that allows me to take bigger systems like C300s and comfortably put it on there without really pushing the motor system is great. I just really love that. Super thing, awesome thing. The other thing I think that is kind of built on that is not only can you put bigger cameras on here, but the RS2 comes built with the ability to easily put counterweights on your system if you have those bigger cameras. Awesome, great. It means you can get heavier cameras. It makes this much, much more versatile in how you use a gimbal. So that's a great shock, and that comes in at number 3. Now, number 4, and this was not a good shock for me. It's actually the mount plate, and I knew this was coming, but the Ronin RS2 comes with a Arca Swiss mount, and it's a weird mount system. The fact that it's got this Manfrotto type plate on the bottom, but then you mount your camera here on the Arca Swiss mount. Now, I do like the philosophy of this. I like the idea of The mount slips in from the side, and that's really nice when you have your camera. You can slip it in the side. It makes the balance things easy. It's basically ready to go. However, the problem I have with this is that I'm a videographer, man. And really, I don't use any Arca Swiss mounts on anything else. And that means that anytime I switch off my camera, I've got to switch to this Arca Swiss plate, which I absolutely hate because everything I have has Manfrotto plates. And I actually, when I buy my cameras, buy extra plates just so I can keep plates permanently attached to all my cameras, so I'm always ready to go. I don't want to spend time on a day shooting, switching a plate off the bottom of the camera, especially when I'm using a Ronin. Now, that being said, Small Rig does make an adapter for it, and I will talk about that in a future review, which is great, but not a big fan of the Arca Swiss kind of mount here. I also think this is a really small surface area and it doesn't keep your camera real secure. So if you have a bigger camera like the C300, you can get micro vibrations. So not a big fan of the Arca Swiss mount. All right, shock number 5. I know everybody talked about there's carbon fiber on this RS2 and they said it was going to be easier to set up. And yes, it is easier to get your adjustments. But I'll be honest, I actually thought it was going to be easier than what was said. I love the dial here. It's very similar to the Ronin 2. That's the only place I have it. And I did find some of the axes I could push this carbon fiber. It was easier than the metal. But some of them, especially this top-down balance axe here, I still found this one, it's just a pain to get set in. So it is easier to set, but I thought it would have been a little bit easier because that was one of my big gripes of the original Ronin-S was that it just was, you had to really push and shake it and do it. And while some of the axes are okay, I still feel like this top-down axis could still be a little bit easier to dial in. It just feels very, very resistant once you put the camera on there. All right, shock number 6, and this is a great one. That is the LCD screen on the back of your Ronin. This thing is great. I love this feature, and it's something that I didn't think that would be that big of a deal to me because usually when I just run, I'll set my settings and go, but I find myself using this all the time. It is so nice and so convenient to have access to all your features and modifications right here on the gimbal so you can just run and go. And when you're on a set, if you can save seconds of time, that leads to minutes down the road and that saves money because every minute costs you money on a set. So I love the touchscreen. I think it's great. You can quickly hit the button, the power button once to lock it and make sure you don't actually set anything. Make sure you do that. That was a big thing. But I have found the touchscreen to be a great benefit. It is so much nicer to have that rather than having to pull out my phone and go in the app and try and set stuff. So touchscreen, man, that is a great, awesome shock. Number 7, Raven Eyes. I love this idea and this system that comes with the Pro version of the RS2. This thing I did not think I would love it as much as I do, and I think it's so awesome. It's by far a huge shock and so much better than the Ronin-S. And that is basically, this little thing is a Wi-Fi signal that you can then pick up and control your thing on your phone. And what's great, you can slip it right here on the bottom of your Ronin, and it just goes, it's out of the way, not bothersome at all, easy to set up, and it's so powerful because I can actually take my phone, use my phone now as a monitor on set. And I love this because I'll be honest, a lot of times when I'm using the Ronin, I'm actually working between tripods, handheld, other things like that. And one of the things I always kind of had a pain of going between my different Ronins on a day is I would have like my camera set up with monitors and stuff over there and then have to come up and then have to do a whole different monitor solution with the Ronin. Now what happens with Ronin, I can take my iPhone and just put it on here, hook it up, quick, boom, boom, leave my monitor over there with my other cameras. I've got a quick monitor to get these shots and boom, I can go back. Super convenient, very, very nice. I also love how DJI package all the cables you're gonna need to make this Raven Eye system work. So the Raven Eye, man, if you're thinking about getting it, get it. It is an awesome system and it unlocks a lot of what this gimbal can do. Don't even question it, just go ahead and spend the extra money and get it. All right, number 8 it's a small thing, but honestly, it's something I was really disappointed about in the Ronin RS2, and that is this. If you look at the bottom of the battery plate, there's only 1/4 inch screw. Now, you say, why does this matter, Brian? Well, on the original Ronin-S, it had both a 1/4 inch and a 3/8 screw on the bottom of the battery. And this is really important for me because I'm a guy that likes to attach my Ronin to stuff. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll actually put my Ronin on a monopod and basically use my Ronin as a makeshift jib. 2 contact points is much better, and if I have to choose between hanging my camera and my Ronin system off a monopod, I much would prefer a 3/8 versus a 1/4, and unfortunately, they took that option away on the Ronin RS2. That's actually something I'm really, really disappointed on because that was something I used a lot. And sometimes I just secure this to a tripod head, and I just preferred having a 3/8 screw. So not having that option is something that I definitely miss and definitely disappointed not to have on the RS2. All right, my 9th biggest shock, and this is just so huge it ties in with Raven Eyes. That is having active track on my gimbal. This is amazing because the active track on this is so intuitive, and I feel like it really helps me out so much when I'm getting certain types of shots. It helps me mechanically, it helps me get certain shots. I've already used it on certain shoots. You don't use it for every shoot, but having that active track, being able to lock onto things is just great. I actually did a tutorial up here on how to use active track if you want to check that out in an earlier video. But the active track is something that is so great. And the difference between active track in this versus some earlier models, I know there were versions of active track on the SC and even the RS, but the problem was you had to put your phone like on your camera and mount it and then do it off of that. And the problem was you weren't getting exactly what your camera sees. And that was a problem for me because when you're doing commercial work, there can be no variance. You need to know you got what you shot. And so now what happens is the active track works with the Raven Eyes straight from what your camera sees. You know exactly what you're shooting, and it's pretty much perfect most of the time that you try and do it, as long as you're smart about how you operate it. So the active track, I think, is a revolutionary way of how you can operate your gimbal, and I love it. Can't get enough of it. And now for the 10th and biggest and happiest shocks for me on the Ronin-S, because it's something that I didn't even know I wanted, and that is this, briefcase mode. I absolutely love the mechanical ability of the Ronin RS2 to let you use briefcase mode. Now, as a guy that's coming from the world of the original Ronin, I do like having a double-handed grip on my gimbal. It makes me feel more in control. I always feel a little bit better about it. What I love about this briefcase mode, it gives me 2 grips, but in a different configuration than I'm used to, and it's so intuitive. And what's great is I'm a guy that loves to change elevation during a shoot, and this just makes it so easy, smooth. I can do it. I can get low shots super easy, and it's pretty fast here to switch over here to the briefcase mode. And I think the briefcase mode just really unlocks a whole nother level of your Ronin mechanically, because these things can be mechanically difficult on your body, especially if you're doing a long day and you're running and gunning. And you want your camera equipment to make your life as easy as possible so you can concentrate on those shots and not be worrying about pains and aches and uncomfortableness. And this briefcase mode really, really helps me do it. So, man, love the briefcase mode. Love the whole briefcase mechanics of it. DJI, thumbs up, because this is awesome. I love it. Can't imagine now having a gimbal without it. So, those are my 10 biggest shocks moving from the Ronin-S to the S2. And I'll be honest, is this revolutionary? Yeah, I think so. I think some of the changes there are small enough they change the way you operate a gimbal. The SC to the S, I would consider evolutionary, kind of smaller things, but things like the active track, the Raven Eyes, how the briefcase mode changes how you go about interacting with your gimbal itself, those change the way I approach gimbal operation, and for me, they really make my life on a set that much more productive, and I feel like I get better work from it. So, 10 biggest shocks moving from the Ronin-S to the S2. Hope that was helpful. Hope that answered any questions you might have had about this system. If you have anything else you want to say, leave me a comment down below. Please subscribe. That always helps me out too. Yeah, guys, get out there, keep on shooting, and I'll talk to you soon.